Is Eddington by Ari Aster a good watch? That's the big question I've been asking myself since I've left the theater. And honestly, the answer is a bit complicated. Even though this is my least favorite film by Aster, it's still a really good one, and we could talk about why. Welcome back to Good Watch, where we break down movies worth your time, and sometimes, maybe most times, the ones that aren't. Today we're diving into Eddington, Ari Aster's latest psychological slow burn that proves he's still one of the boldest filmmakers working today. Eddington is set in May 2020, right in the thick of one of the most chaotic moments in recent history. We're talking early pandemic, lockdowns, the George Floyd protests, a time where everyone was living in a state of panic and constant confusion. The story takes place in the small New Mexico town of Eddington, where a local sheriff, played by Joaquin Phoenix, tries to keep control as tensions in the town start spiraling. On the surface, it's a quiet drama, but if you know Ari Aster, you know that quiet never stays that way for long. To start off, Aster has the signature ability to take ordinary emotions, such as grief, fear, paranoia, and twist them into something nightmarish. From Hereditary to Midsummer to Beau is Afraid, every one of his films leaves you asking the same question: what the fuck did I just watch? And Eddington absolutely continues that tradition. It's a slow burn at first, maybe even too slow for some, but once the movie hits that midpoint, it completely flips. The tone shifts, the energy spikes, and by the time we hit the final act, you're in full Ari Aster chaos mode. What Eddington does really well is capture the anxiety and confusion of that early time period. Everyone was scared, isolated, and also desperate for control. And Aster uses that collective panic to build tension in ways that feel uncomfortably real. By setting the film in a small town, he makes everything feel tighter and more personal. You can't just fade into the crowd. Everyone knows everyone, and the chaos hits a little too close to home. Through little details, such as what the characters are listening to, what they text each other, the type of media they consume, you start to understand just how fragile and fractured people were at the time, and how that kind of prolongs into now. It's not just a story about control, it's about how we lose it, both personally and socially. Now, of course, this is Ari Aster we're talking about, this madman. So the symbolism is pretty thick, especially in the last 20 minutes. There's a ton of politically charged imagery and surreal moments that walk the line between absurd and profound. It's very exaggerated for sure, but that's kind of the point. The ending feels like a fever dream born from a time when everyone was on high alert and edge. And honestly, this might be Aster's most action-heavy sequence yet. The last stretch has some truly cool shots, wide desert vistas, tight tension building cuts, and sequences that make you realize he could totally step into the action genre if he chose to. Of course, like with anything else, Joaquin Phoenix absolutely delivers. At this point, he and Ari Aster are like Kobe and Shaq, unstoppable when they're on the same team. Their creative chemistry is insane. I personally like Beau is Afraid more overall, but Joaquin Phoenix definitely fits perfectly into Aster's unsettling worlds every time. Then you've got Emma Stone and Austin Butler, who both do great work here. Though, if I'll be honest, I wish they had a little bit more time. The movie's already a long slow burn, but an extra 15 or 20 might be pushing it, but an extra 15 to 20 minutes focusing on their characters could have really added some much needed emotional depth. Maybe even just the scene where they meet for the first time might have made a big difference instead of it happening off camera. Still, their performances add a lot to the story's texture. You feel like these are real people trying to hold it together in a collapsing world. Compared to Aster's other films, Eddington is definitely his most grounded. It's less stylized, more realistic, almost like a modern Western in tone. If you're expecting the wild, cultish visuals of Midsummer, or the surreal absurdity of Beau is Afraid, or just the chaos of Hereditary, this one's gonna feel way more stripped down. But that being said, the restraint works. It gives Aster space to explore a different kind of horror. Not supernatural, but social. It's about how paranoia and power can twist people, especially in small communities where everyone's just trying to keep control. So, overall, is Eddington by Ari Aster a good watch? Yeah, I think so. It's not my favorite film of his, but it's a powerful, haunting piece that captures the fear and uncertainty of a time we're still trying to process. And if you enjoyed Aster's previous work, I think there's definitely something here for you, even if it's a bit more grounded and less flashy than what you might actually expect. Personally, I hope he goes back to horror for his next project, but this experiment, I'm really glad he took it. Overall, thanks for watching. If you like this breakdown, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to Good Watch for more reviews, breakdowns, and deep dives into the movies that stick with you long after the credits, and even the ones that make you cry after the credits. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.